Welcome back, my friends. As the title suggests, this is the list I ran to win my set championship. Let's put that over there. I want to go over this list and what worked and what didn't work for me personally, as I do think this is one of the best options for this set champ season. I really don't think there's any bad matchups that you're going to run into. There's definitely no matchups where you're definitely out of the game. And I ran into a little bit of everything. I happened to avoid Blurple at my set championship. There was like 2 of them in the room, and I avoided them all day, which is pretty good. And they didn't make the top 4. It's funny because Purple Steel was 3 of the 4 in the top, so that's, if that doesn't say something about the deck list itself. Now, obviously, you could tweak this to your liking depending on your local meta, but this is what worked for me, and I'm gonna go over what I would change and what I wouldn't change going into my next weekend of set championships. Alright, so I want to start off with going over what worked for me, and I want to start off with Pete Games Referee. This card has fallen out of a lot of lists lately, but for me this is a non-negotiable, and it's an automatic 4 of in my deck. And here's why. There's so many decks and so many people running this Amethyst Steel aggro deck that is, they want to get their singers out as fast as possible, and once they do that, they can take over the game. So by turn 3, they want to have a singer out on board. In many cases, they're going to have turn 2. Turn 2, they're going to have a singer for sure. So Pete stops that dead in its tracks. And it stops their Tiana from singing or their lady from singing. And in some lists now, Troubadour is also in there. But Troubadour you're not seeing as often. But anyways, you want to stop their singers from singing. Because once they get that first Strength of a Raging Fire out, the game's pretty much done. So Pete Referee stops that, and it ensures that you can get your Strength of Raging Fire out on turn 4, guaranteed. And that's kind of what this deck wants to do. It's also very, very good in the mirror match. It definitely won me a couple games, and it actually got me into the finals as I faced the mirror in the semifinals. And Pete was a huge, huge difference maker for me in that list. And there's so many other lists now. Under the Sea is not as prevalent against our list, as we have a lot of 3 bodies, but it does stop them from doing the Held High and the Under the Sea on the same turn, so it can save you some games in those matchups as well. But for me, yeah, Pete Games Referee, automatic 4 of. Another card that hasn't seen a lot of play recently, but is in my list, is 2 copies of Benja. Items haven't been super relevant for a while, but with dogs being so prevalent and green steel being so making its way back into the meta, you do want to have a little bit of item hate, and Benja does that for me. It was super relevant as I did face a dogs deck that was running Chromicon, and this obviously takes advantage of that. And surprisingly enough, I did face a Ruby Amber Princess deck that was running the Queen Sensor Core, and Benja was able to take that out in my finals, so that's pretty cool. And it's just relevant again. Maybe not a 4 of, obviously. Maybe not even a 2 of. You can just run 1 copy of this and I think you'd be okay. But I'm comfortable with a 2 of this, and I made it fit and I made it work. Now, a card that also hasn't really gotten much play, except for it did perform very well in Bologna over the last, what was it, 2 weekends ago? Is Ursula Voice Stealer. This card is super relevant for many reasons. Obviously, you have the high roll chance of playing this card, exerting a 3 of or higher, and playing Strength of a Raging Fire. That's a very high roll play. But the first ability is also very relevant, as fighting is relevant. When you play this character, exert chosen opposing ready character. Then you may play a song with cost equal to or less than the exerted character's cost for free. So that part you don't actually have to do, but the exerting chosen opposing character is relevant, as you do want to be able to interact with your opponent's board as frequently as you can with this particular deck. And a lot of these aggro decks are staying up right until they have like 10 lore or so at a time, and then they just go for it. So being able to exert your opponent's board without an Elsa is very relevant. Alright, so now let's go into things that I didn't think was relevant for this particular list. And I'm going to start off with Diablo Obedient Raven. I ran this, but I don't necessarily like it, and I'm probably going to drop it. The idea that it can draw you a card and your opponent doesn't really want to interact with it that frequently, that's kind of relevant. But I found with the prevalence of so many aggro decks right now, when you have a Diablo on board, it's just a free-for-all for them to it's just free questing for them, and it's not necessarily what I want, especially as like an opener, and in many cases this was my only one drop that I had in my opening hand, and it's just not great. So moving forward, I think I'm gonna cut Diablo. That may be controversial to some people, but yeah, it just didn't work out for me as much as I would have hoped. And I'm just ended up throwing it at things to draw a card, and which is something you just don't want to be doing. That's a desperation play, and I'm not into that. So moving forward, I think I'm gonna be cutting Diablo. Now, another controversial pick is Bell. Moving forward, I might actually cut Bell from my list entirely. I have already dropped it down to a 1-of to play the Ursula. But yeah, I just don't see Bell working in this deck as well as it does in Blood Bowl. Blood Bowl, you obviously have your line. It's turn 1, turn 2 T-Bow, turn 4 Genie, turn 5 Elsa, turn 6 Bell. That's your line. But yeah, in the purple steel list, I just don't see Bell being as relevant. And in many games, I was just playing it on turn 5 without having the opportunity to use its ability. So it takes a lot more setup for this particular deck. So yeah, that's why I'm disappointed with Bell's performance in my purple steel list, and moving forward I will be replacing it with another card that I will be getting to right now. Okay, so this is the revised list that I will be taking to my upcoming set championships for the remainder of the season. I have dropped Diablo. 0-1 is not relevant, and Happy just gives me the additional option to trade into the evasive decks, as well as helps me in the more aggro matchups, as a 0-1 just does not do that. I've also reduced the amount of Dolores I run to 3 copies, and I've added 1 copy of Madame M. Elephant. Elephant is just a huge body that can throw damage around, and it's just very, very hard to deal with. So I'm gonna give that a shot. I think it'll work in this list. So yeah, that's why I'm doing that. I also mentioned that I would be cutting Bell from my list. Bell just wasn't working for me as much as I would have liked her to. So I've cut Bell, as I was only running 1-of anyways. And I've replaced it with Namari. Namari is just a house. It has a 5 willpower, and this character gets +1 strength for each card in your discard. The way I play this deck, I want to make favorable trades, which will increase my discard pile anyways. So it's just going to make Namari even more of a threat to deal with, as well as it helps me filter out cards, especially in situations where I might be looking for some removal. I might need a Fire the Cannon or a Strength of a Raging Fire at the time, and Namari can help me get there. which is pretty good. It also insulates some of my 4-drops because Namari is so good at filtering my deck and looking for answers that it may actually protect my Dumbos, my Genies, or my Yzmas and force them to remove Namari first, which is also pretty ideal as then I can draw away. But yeah, this is the revised list I will be going with. And before anyone says, oh, there's too many 1-ofs, that's just how I like to play the game. I understand that there's less consistency that way, but I just like having more options. And yeah, that's why I always run a more toolboxy build. Now, I would love to hear your thoughts on my list in the comment section below, and as always, good luck in your set championships, my friends. So, we're going second. We have a turn 1, we have a turn 3. We don't have a turn 2, so we're going to hard mulligan for that. Yeah, so let's go. We're going to put both Dolores back. We're going to put 1 hook back. And we're going to put Genie back. Okay, so that increased our hand drastically. This is pretty good. Okay. So I need my 3 bodies out there. Let's put Namari in. Play hook and pass. So as long as we play our 3 bodies, we should be okay in this matchup. And on turn 5, I can utilize Ursula to exert the stuff that he doesn't want exerted. I'm gonna Tipo. Next turn, we will probably see a shift. So we're not gonna need Benja, so we'll add Benja into the Inkwell, play Calhoun, and pass. Donald Duck. Okay, so we get some draw for us, which is pretty good. We're gonna add one of these for Fikis. Let's play the Genie here. I will draw. We got strength, so that's not bad. So this turn we can remove the Baymax if it comes out, or we can remove the Donald Duck. Because I'll play Pete, I'll play Rafiki, then I will sing with the Genie. Or I just wait a turn and sing it for free with the Ursula. But then I just give him an extra turn of draw, and I don't like that. So turn 5 could be Donald. If he's running Donald, he may be doing that. So they did the Baymax. I'm not too concerned about Baymax. So let's add to Inkwell. We'll play Pete, play Rafiki, and we will sing, picking out Donald. So that puts them in a pretty bad position. I will quest with that just to bait the Baymax so I can trade with the Calhoun. I mean, not the Calhoun, the Hook. Okay, so here we're gonna add the Elephant. We're gonna play Ursula. Tap down Baymax. Skip that one. We're going to trade Hook and Rafiki. We're going to quest with everyone and pass. Yeah, they conceded because there was nothing they could do. Ursula, OP.